Can you see me here? All right. Well, we got some shit to talk about here. Oh, that's good stuff. Black coffee. Can you see the old board over there? Well, can you see it now? So what we've got on our board to talk about today. Oh yeah, my name's Dustin Matthews. If you didn't know, this is my YouTube channel. Where do I begin? Dear Lord. First of all, I'll explain my teaching style. This is what I would call stream of consciousness, which means I don't really have a plan. I have some bullet points of topics that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to trust my intuition, which is my inner knowing based on the knowledge I've gained and the experiences I've had. I trust my consciousness. I know that my consciousness, from my experience through years of sobriety, meditation, and learning, that I have surrendered to the use of the highest good of all creation. And I trust that the divine can come through me and express things that this Dustin, might not know. But because this Dustin has spent so much time surrendering, because his little ego has been pulverized by his experiences, that now he has surrendered to the infinite Okay? So, based on my surrender to the infinite, I have now become a beacon of light. I have become a channel for the use of the divine. Yes, and you can too. Everybody can. Everybody is actually that. Consciousness, God, spirit, the universe. We are all that. We're just having these finite experiences as human beings when in reality we are an infinite soul. So I'm just here to remind you of who you are. Anyway, what I'll talk about are experiences, identity, emotions, thoughts, actions, behaviors, habits, and conscious choice, healing and new experiences, taboo, shadow, shame and fear, sexuality and spirituality, relationships, work in the world, and integration. Okay, gonna try to cover a very broad spectrum of topics here. So let's get caffeinated. Okay. Where shall we begin? Experiences. All right, we've talked about this before in depth and in detail. I don't know if you've stuck around and watched the videos. You can either watch on regular speed where you can hear my voice as it naturally is, or you can hit that like 1.5 or 2 times button and I'll be talking really fast like a little chipmunk. Anyway, either way, you will get the transmission of wisdom that is coming through to you. And if you're ready to change your life, oh my gosh, keep watching. All right, so experiences shape our perception of reality. This happens from a young age. As we're little babies, we come into this world in a human little baby body. And we're just open, fully open, taking in all this experience. And those early childhood experiences shape what we believe to be true about the world. There's something called Erik Erikson's model of the stages of development, something like that. Erik Erikson's model of development, something like that. Basically, at different times in our lives, psychologically, we're developing different characteristics or different traits. In the first 0 to 1 or 0 to 2 years, we're developing trust or mistrust. We're deciding as those little babies, and it's not a conscious choice, it's based on our experience. From what we experience as little babies in our relationship with our caregivers, usually the mother, because that is who we're breastfeeding from. That is who is our lifeline. We are dependent on the mother, raised in the womb of the mother. Being nurtured, breastfed by the mother. This creates a sense of trust or mistrust in the entire universe. So motherhood is basically the most important job in the world. As a mother, you take that life and you nurture it. And you are basically planting seeds in that little baby so that someday that baby will either trust in life and trust in the universe, or it won't. And then it'll have to go back and go to therapy and do all kinds of crazy shit to try to fucking heal itself. So if you're a mom out there, be a good mom, all right? Breastfeed your little baby, give it the hugs, give it the love, blah, 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 all that good shit, okay? Read some mothering books. I don't know what it takes to be a mom, so I'm just telling you what I think I know based on my study and my experience, which is not of motherhood, but it's of Erik Erikson's model of stages development, okay? So experiences, developing different characteristics at different times in our lives, developing trust in that early age. If you are an adult right now and you've experienced childhood trauma, I don't want you to think just because you might have had trauma at certain ages that those layers of your development are hindered. You can always reparent your inner child. You can have different experiences. There's so many different therapeutic practices and different techniques that you can try that can rewire your brain, and you can go back and you can heal that part of you that didn't get the love and support and nurturing that it needed. So if you have experienced trauma in your life, which most of us have, whether it was big T trauma or little t trauma, you can go back and reparent your own inner child. There's different types of therapies and things like that that you can practice, okay? I could rattle off a few names. EMDR, integrated family systems, cognitive behavioral therapy, meditation, mindfulness, somatic experiencing, breath work, shadow work. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. Giving yourself the old self hug and reparenting the inner child. Okay, plenty of different things you can look up. Maybe I'll talk about each one of those in particular in later videos. But for now, we're covering the big stuff, all right? So those experiences are what create our beliefs about what we believe is true about the world, about ourselves, about existence, about reality. And it happens as we age and as we grow. If you think about it, from the age of 0 to 7, how many experiences do you have? 365 days a year. And how many experiences do you have in a day? So we have a lot of experience that has been unprocessed. Usually what happens is when we are those young ages, we don't have the emotional intelligence to process every experience that's happened to us. And in our education system today, in the Western world, I'm speaking pretty broadly here, in the United States of America, we aren't equipped with all of the tools necessary to become emotionally intelligent. I feel like things have started shifting, but I grew up in high school in the 2000s. I was a little kid in the 90s. So I was born in 1990. Yeah, if you're watching this, I was born in 1990, not 2090, if this video lasts hundreds of years. Anyway, I was born in 1990. So grew up kind of with technology at my fingertips. That's a whole nother thing we'll get into. Anyway, grew up in 1990. What am I saying? Oh yeah, so all those different experiences that you can have as a kid, if you don't have the emotional intelligence to process those experiences, it's just going to create more trauma, conditioning, and limiting beliefs, things that shape your behavior or weigh you down. I have no doubt why there is so much depression, mental illness, suicide, obesity, and outrage in today's society, because I feel like it's a very complex and nuanced topic, and I hate that word nuanced. I don't know why, but it's a trigger word for me. Probably because I like things simple, and things aren't always simple. I try to simplify them because sometimes I feel like people like complexity too much, and they try to make things complex to feel more intellectually superior. So anyway, I'm just exploring some thoughts here. The lack of emotional intelligence and the increase in technological advancement. We have these young people today with so much information coming at them through all this advanced technology, more information than ever before, right at our fingertips. But if we're not emotionally equipped to deal with that information and process the information and the emotions that might come from the access to that information, there's no doubt in my mind why there's so much mental illness, depression, suicide, outrage, people feeling lost and uncertain. There's so much out there. It takes a very disciplined and emotionally mature person to be able to decide consciously what media or education they want to take in, because we've been conditioned. We grow up with our caregivers, our education, our society. Everything is telling us, and whether it's specifically telling us or whether we just soak it up from observation, we're being told what is good and what is bad, what is rewarded and what gets punished. And what this is doing to the human being psychologically can create fear and shame, and this psychological conditioning to have these motivations that come from fear and shame. We know what we'll be punished for. We know what we'll be rewarded for. So we try to be good or we rebel. This is something that comes up when we talk about, a healthy ego versus a shadow, or the super ego. Okay, those are different things I think Freud Freud talked about. Anyway, psychologist. Yeah, he's a psychologist. Sigmund Freud, you know, the tiger guy? The tiger guy? No, the sex guy. The guy that was like, everything's about sex. Anyway, I'm getting a little off topic. Let's bring it back. Experiences create our identity, who we believe we are, and that identity is formed from conditioning. Emotions. We don't have the emotional intelligence to process our emotions, so we basically have a backlog from all of our childhood experiences and traumas, everything that has been unprocessed, that we've tried to escape, that we've tried to cope with using alcohol, drugs, sex, porn, video games, workaholism, chasing success, whatever it is for you. Everybody's got something, all right? So whatever it is that we're trying to escape, whatever pain we're trying to resist, what you resist persists. You talk about this map of consciousness, the spectrum of emotions that a human being can feel. If you look at the map of consciousness all the way from shame and guilt and fear and doubt, grief, apathy, anger, pride, courage, all these different emotions, all those emotions I just named except for courage, I think most human beings would consider negative emotions. They're not a positive feeling. So what happens is when we have those emotions, we don't want to feel them. We don't want to feel all that shame, all that guilt, all that fear, that doubt, the anger, the grief. So usually what happens is we stuff it, we repress it, we suppress it, and then it goes into what's called a shadow. And then it comes out in behavior in twisted ways as outbursts of emotion, or it comes out through seeking coping mechanisms to try to avoid feeling those things. But until we can actually feel those feelings, we're going to continue to act in ways that are driven by our shadow. We're going to engage in behaviors that we're not happy with. We're going to engage in relationships that we might not be healthy. So it's important to be able to understand that these emotions, if you think about the word emotion, motion, energy and motion. Emotions are just energy. They're waves of energy. Let them move through your body. You got to feel it to heal it. Let it move through you. If you got to cry, cry. If you got to punch a punching bag, punch a punching bag. If you got to, just feel it, whatever it is. Expressive writing, journaling, meditation. There's so many different things that can help us process our emotions. But I feel like most people today aren't taught how to do that in a healthy way. They're taught to suck it up. They're taught, your anger is bad. They're taught, big boys or big girls don't cry. Don't be scared. Don't be this. Don't do that. Shamed for exploring things that might be of a taboo nature. So all of these different experiences that we have in our lives start to shape and form our identity, which is who we believe we are. So then we grow up, and some of these experiences can come out in ways like, I'm bad. That's a shame-based thought. Because this happened to me. When I was a little kid, I found porn on the internet, and then my parents got mad at me, and they shamed me. So I'm bad. And what else does that create? That means my sexuality is bad. Sex is bad. So then we create that feeling, and that gets stuffed and repressed. So then sexuality becomes even more of a taboo topic that we can't talk about. Sexuality today and pornography today, there's a reason so much of the internet and the use of the internet is pornography. It's sexuality. It doesn't surprise me, because sexuality is something that in the Western world especially, the masses have more of a Puritan belief system which shames sexuality and lifts spirituality. It puts sexuality in the shadow, which is why porn is usually watched in isolation and nobody else knows. It's usually something someone does alone. OnlyFans. There's another thing with suppressed sexuality. If people don't want to express their sexuality through connection with a human being, maybe it's easier to do it on a video. So I'm talking about some things that are pretty taboo and they might be hard to talk about or hear about, and you might have some feelings about them, whether it's porn or sex workers like OnlyFans. Because basically with OnlyFans, if you think about it, it's digital prostitution. People are paying for some sort of sexual energy exchange. And I'm not trying to shame anybody for using porn or for using OnlyFans or being a sex worker or being a stripper or a prostitute. What I'm doing is I'm trying to shed some light on the choices that we have to engage with those behaviors, whether we choose to use porn, whether we choose to engage with OnlyFans or becoming a sex worker or a stripper or a prostitute or using strippers or prostitutes. I would ask the individual to look at the experiences of your life and your childhood around sexuality and around shame, and figure out, did you have any experiences when you were young that made you feel like sex was bad, or made you feel like porn was bad, or that you couldn't talk about sex? And what did that do? Did you suppress those feelings? If you couldn't talk to somebody about it, then the internet becomes the only place you can go to learn about it. So this is just one topic, but I think it's a pretty big one. And I know for me that I've explored this in depth with my own explorations of, I've been clean and sober from alcohol and drugs for 13 years, over 13 years, been meditating for over 12 years. I've had a lot of different experiences in terms of romance and sexuality, relationships, pornography, masturbation, all of it. I've experienced a wide variety of life. And from my experiences, if you want to say on one side of the spectrum, it's like complete hedonism and you go all into all the sex stuff. And then on the other side, it's complete celibacy and like becoming a monk or a nun. There's that polarity, okay? And what I've found is that I've oscillated between those extremes of overindulging in an unhealthy way, and then I try to overcorrect and become so purified and spiritual in the other direction. And I think the point that I'm coming to is realizing the integration and the balance of those two things. Because I do believe spirituality and sexuality are not separate things. Spirituality and sexuality are both sacred. Sexuality has this life force potential to create new life. Spirituality is the essence of who we really are. And I think the two, like when you can integrate and understand that sexuality is spirituality, because when two human beings come together, I'm sorry. When two human beings come together in like sexual union, it's a spiritual experience and it can create a new life. If that's not spiritual, I don't know what is. So integration, I think, is the way of bridging these things. And I think having these conversations is more important now than ever, because I feel like the access to information out there in the world is so high. And I feel like sometimes the things that get the views aren't integrated conversations. They're the polar opposites, because it's the extremes that get attention. It's the extreme violence or the extreme outrage or the extreme grief or It's the person who has gone into extreme monkhood and has, mastered their senses, or it's the OnlyFans model or the porn star, or not often do the people who have fully integrated, I think, get the attention and respect and have the influence that I feel like they deserve. And I'm not sure why that is, but I feel like the world needs more integrated people who are willing to speak openly about their experiences and not hide in the shadow of their shame or their fear. I think sharing open-heartedly with people is the way for everyone to learn and evolve and grow. I don't feel like we should be suppressing or controlling what people have the freedom to speak about. And I also feel like it's important for the individual who's speaking to be intentional and conscious about what they have to say. Because everything we do and everything we say has an influence, whether we admit that or believe that or not. Words have vibration. Vibration is a frequency. Frequency is what creates form. To inform somebody is to speak structured, coherent thought. Structured, coherent thought creates aligned understanding. I feel like our ability to perceive truth comes from an aligned nervous system, and our emotions are what tell us or inform us of truth. And I think this is something that humans have struggled with over time to realize, because I think we have a tendency to rely too heavily on the intellect and not on the intuition, which is the inner knowing, which is more of an emotional intelligence rather than, it's a heartfelt thing, not a mind-based thing. But the integration, again, integrate mind and heart, reason and feeling, just like integrating sexuality and spirituality. I feel like coming from a balanced place of integration creates coherence in the individual. And I feel as though the individual who can speak coherently can radiate a vibrational frequency that will help others align with that frequency of truth and coherence. And the more they listen to that person and maintain that frequency, it's like hearing it is an initiation. It's a vibe, and you can feel it, and you're like, ooh, that's true. You feel it. And I think for me, it's like staying in tune. And from what I've experienced as a channel of consciousness, is surrender helps me stay in the flow. And it's like staying in harmony with an instrument, staying in tune. You just have to feel it and continuously come back to that feeling of, okay, is this wisdom that I'm transmitting true? And I feel as though for me, it starts with intention, surrendering, and having the intention to be of service to the highest good of all creation is what allows me to speak and communicate and articulate my thoughts and emotions with clarity, so that others may have a deeper and more holistic understanding of themselves. Okay, next topic. Boom, boom, boom. Relationships. Okay. Relationships are like mirrors. If you have shadows if you have traumas, when you are in a relationship with someone else, most likely what you see in them is a reflection of you. If you see something you admire, it's probably because you have a part of that in you. If you see something that you judge and you don't like, it's probably because you might have some of that in you. So I think it's important to realize relationships are a mirror and a tool for the expansion of your own consciousness. I also think it's important not to be dependent on relationships for your own growth. Yes, they are a tool, but first and foremost, you are an individual, and you can learn from yourself in your own self-reflection through practices like meditation, prayer, seeking. You don't have to just learn from falling into relationships. That is a path, it's not the path. Work in the world. What is it that motivates you? Motivate, that means the thing that triggers us to act. What is it that motivates us? What is it that makes us act each day? Is it our habits? Is it a conscious choice? Is it fear? Are we still being driven by the fear of our conditioning? Do we still act in ways in the world where we're driven to try to pursue these ambitious things to make money so that we feel safe and secure? Maybe we think more money will bring us the relationship that we want because we've been conditioned to believe that, some of this toxic masculinity and toxic femininity stuff, it's like all men are this way, all women are this way. And sometimes if you buy into that, it creates a lot of fear. And I think some of those things with the toxic masculinity where it's like all women want men with money and men with power, that's a pretty big generalization. And I think there is something to look at in terms of the psychology of individuals. And maybe there are biological and psychological differences, but I also feel like the energy that is within an individual, we both, whether you're biologically male, female, you have both masculine and feminine energies in you. They just might be which ones have a stronger influence. So are we acting out of fear and habit? Are we acting out of being psychologically manipulated to believe that we need more money and we need to be an asshole, we need to be powerful in order to attract a feminine woman, in order to attract a beautiful woman? Or do we need to be a beautiful woman and have a perfect appearance and be people-pleasing to always satisfy our man? Do we need that in order to get love? I feel like those two things are on different ends of the spectrum, and they come from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of not being chosen, fear of not being loved, fear of not being enough. I feel like the four of the deepest traumas and wounds that human beings carry are that I'm not safe, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And if we can go inside and nurture the parts of ourselves that feel those things and just reflect and affirm, I am safe. I am safe in this moment. I am enough. I am lovable. I am worthy. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I know from my experiences, what I've been through, that I've pursued sex, romance, achievement, money. I've chased after those things to try to feel better about myself. And while the pursuit felt like it was meaningful and drove me, it motivated me. When I achieved those things, it wasn't lasting fulfillment. It was a little bit of a satisfaction of that desire. Oh, I got the sex, I got the relationship, I got the job, I got the money, I achieved the thing I wanted to achieve. But there was still that deeper part of me that felt like I'm still not enough. I'm still not lovable. I'm still not worthy. And until we can address those core needs, no amount of sex, no relationship, no job, no amount of money, no achievement is ever going to fill your heart. You have to be able to sit with your own heart, feel your own feelings. You have to be able to go back to that part of you that didn't feel like you were safe, or didn't feel like you were enough, didn't feel like you were loved, didn't feel like you were worthy. And you have to relive that and experience that pain again. And then you have to be able to reparent that part of you and tell yourself, affirm to yourself, I got you now. I know that happened. I know that hurt. I know that was fucking hard. But I'm here now. I got you. When you show up and reparent your own inner child, it's a very strange feeling, because part of you, there might be parts of you that feel all kinds of different emotions. That's the thing with emotions. If you look at the ocean, or you look at a body of water on a wavy day, it's not just one wave. There's multiple waves. You can experience multiple emotions at the same time. You can experience anger, grief, shame, fear, doubt, anxiety, worry, all at the same time. You can experience so many different emotions at the same time. But they're always going to be there until you go within and start to allow yourself to feel them. And you can start to understand them and say, okay, once you can start to name them, you can start to tame them. And you don't tame them by not feeling them. You tame them by allowing them to be there, by accepting and embracing what you feel. You feel sadness, you feel anger, you feel anxiety, you feel fear, you feel shame. Let yourself feel what you feel without resistance. Feel it to heal it, name it to tame it. All that good stuff. What else we got? Oh yeah, so that all started because of work in the world and realizing what it is that motivates us or drives us to action, and whether it's habit or conscious choice. Realizing your own motivations. I've talked about before, intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation, what motivates you from inside. Extrinsic motivation, what motivates you from outside. Money, fame, grades, praise, relationships, sex, food. What motivates you intrinsically? Is it joy? Is it purpose? Is it love? Is it courage? Is it helping people? Is it protecting people? Is it learning? You've got to be able to go within yourself and ask, where did that come from? Is it coming from your soul, or is it coming from conditioning? Is it coming from your soul, or is it coming from your conditioning? The only way to do that is to get in touch with your heart, to let your mind integrate with your heart. The only way to do that is to allow yourself to feel your feelings. I feel some tightness in my heart. Checking in with yourself, with your body, feeling what you feel physically in your body, somatic experiencing. I feel tightness in my chest. What is that tightness? Grief, fear, feeling like I've closed my heart to relationships because I'm afraid of being hurt. I'm afraid of hurting others. I have a lot of love, Sometimes that love wants to pour out onto different people. And sometimes that feels like a lot, especially if I've been conditioned to believe that a monogamous relationship is the right thing. How do I decide? How do I choose what is right for me in terms of relationships? Do I heal by myself, or do I commit to a relationship? Do I try multiple relationships? That's a whole different topic when we talk about the structures of relationships: monogamy, polyamory, celibacy, serial monogamy, ethical non-monogamy. There's a lot of different words. And those things can be explored and discovered for each individual. There is no one right way. From my experience, self-discovery, loving yourself is a prerequisite to a healthy relationship. Otherwise, the relationship's just going to mirror back you, who you are, and where you're at. So doing your own inner work, but also not trying to be such a perfectionist that you have to say, I have to do it all and heal myself and be perfect before I'm ready for a relationship. You have to be able to trust your heart, trust your experience, and trust when something presents itself. If you have an opportunity to get to know somebody, can you get to know them without diving in and being rushed into making decisions? Integration. What we're doing right now is integration. Listening, meditating, speaking, going for walks, learning, reading. Life is the process of integration. We're always integrating our experiences. Trial and error, knowledge and experience, journaling, meditation. Yeah. Well, I think I covered just about everything on the list. Is there anything else? Let me check in really quick. Okay, 2 things. 1, trust and self-confidence. Confidence comes from the word confide, which means to trust in. So self-confidence comes from self-trust. The more you're able to keep commitments to yourself, to engage in behaviors that you're consciously choosing to try to engage in, helps you build and develop that self-trust. You don't have to beat yourself up when you make mistakes, or if you make a commitment to trying to go to the gym or to meditate or to be sober or something like that, and then you have a relapse. Don't always have to beat yourself up. You can say, okay, what happened there? You can journal, you can reflect, you can meditate, and you can start again. You can try again. I've been clean and sober for 13 years, but from the age of 17 to 23, well, 16 to 23, I was using drugs and alcohol. And the entire time, well, maybe not the entire time, but yeah, a lot of that time I didn't want to be using. I was using because I was escaping something. I didn't know how to feel my feelings, and I was trying to just feel better. And for a long period of time, six or 7 years, I would go through phases of using drugs and alcohol and then quitting and being sober and then relapsing. So for 6 to 7 years, I was in this phase of use, sobriety, relapse, that cycle. So I understand that it can be really hard to break patterns and break habits. But we have to be able to have compassion for ourselves and consciously choose to have new experiences, because a new experience will reshape your brain. A new experience can give you new information rather than repeating the same thing over and over and over and over. If you just continue to repeat the same pattern, you're not going to be able to break out of that. If you're driving down a dirt road every day, the same dirt road, your tires are going to dig ruts into that dirt road. You have to be able to get off that dirt road in order to try a new path. You have to have a new experience. You have to go try something new, whether it's meditation, prayer, spirituality, psychology, philosophy, whether it's exercise, yoga, meditation, watching these YouTube videos, writing songs, acting, singing, dancing, journaling, whatever it is for you. You have to be able to sit with yourself and go have the courage to go try something new. Therapy, aligned coaching. So yeah, that self-trust will come, that self-confidence will come when you can engage in practices and behaviors that you're trying to engage in to become a better version of yourself. And the more you do that, the more self-confidence you'll build. The other thing, learning how to regulate your nervous system. If you're in a state of fight or flight, if you're anxious, if you're in a state of dysregulation, that will shape everything you see. It's like having rose-colored glasses on. If you have rose-colored glasses on, maybe you're a love addict and you're just like, oh, I love you, goo goo gaga. Okay, you got the love glasses on. If you have, some people call them beer goggles, you know, once you start drinking, you're just like, woo, I love everybody. What else? Your nervous system, the state of your nervous system can shape your perception, which amplifies rapid thoughts, anxious feelings, and that can shape everything you see and layer it on top of reality. So learning how to regulate your own nervous system, I think a breathing technique, the 4-6 breathing technique, in through your nose for 4 seconds, out through your nose for 6 seconds, as long as you have a longer exhale than inhale, that is, I think, one of the best ways to kind of settle your nervous system in the moment. So if you can regulate your state, you can regulate your fate. Okay, so learn how to regulate your nervous system. And then you can allow yourself to be in a place where you can feel those feelings, sit with yourself, sit with your thoughts, contemplate, journal, meditate, pray, surrender, trust, and just keep on keeping on. All right, I think that's all. I'll do one more check-in to see if we are complete here. The journey continues, okay? As a human being, everything I've shared here, I am still practicing daily. I don't feel like I have mastered it yet. The art of surrender is a practice, because when we have human experiences, it can be very destabilizing to have so much love and so much fear and so much grief and so much anger. Well, we can't suppress it. We have to allow ourselves to feel those feelings and continuously come back to surrender, service to the highest good, perspective, reparenting that little part of us that is inside, staying connected to our heart and our mind, learning how to develop confidence and trust, and engaging in behaviors that we are consciously choosing from our soul, not from our conditioning. And it's a practice, it's a journey. So give yourself some compassion, give yourself some grace. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal, I think, is to be authentic and just surrender and feel what you feel. And that will come out, and it will just allow you to be in the flow. And it's when you're in the flow, that state of perfection comes through you, because it's just effortlessly you. And effortless you is perfectly divine. So I love you. God bless. Good luck. See you later. If you want some aligned coaching, let me know. Oh, got a little kink in my shoulder. You got a kink in your shoulder, eh? Anyway, yeah. All right, I think that's all right. Allow yourself to feel in your heart. Open your heart. You can do it. I believe in you. I love you. God bless. Good luck.